I am about to find out if my experiment to help Sylvie start stashing food has been successful or not. Wanna come? Sylvie is currently asleep under her pirate ship, so I'm going to try not to talk too loud. And I've just removed the platform that sits above this multi-chamber. When stuff gets too dirty, she tends to move hides, which is helpful because she'll probably stay under there while I clean this out. So it's nice that I don't... She pretty much tells me when it's time to clean out the hide. So I've just removed everything off it, and this is the very first time. And I'm going to see if there's a food stash waiting for us in here. Oh, it doesn't look like it, does it? Let's put that over there. So this is the chamber she's been weeing in. Oh. That kind of looks like food. What have we got? It's just one pumpkin seed and a few poops. I'll just gently take this out very quietly. So that I can get to these a bit easier. So what I did to try and encourage her to stash is put food in here in this chamber, because the last time I cleaned it out there was a lot of empty stuff in there. So I put it in this chamber to see if she would start stashing. And I can see that it's gone. There's more wee in this chamber. Oh my god. I feel like this is a huge milestone. I literally did just put one spoonful in, and it was in the middle chamber. I know this is the chamber she sleeps in, from when I checked on her when she first moved in, and that is definitely 2 stashes. I'm just going to check, is this actually... Yeah, this is actually food, not just casings, because I often, like, I found food in here before, but it's usually just empty casings. There's some empty casings in there, but there's actually food. There's actually food in there. Okay. So I'm going to try and leave as much of that in there as possible. And these, this has been pulled off a boredom breaker because there's flour on it. So I think we've got ourselves a stash. And I could not be a prouder mama. Alright. What have we got down here? This might be the stash that I put in. I'm just going to try and pull out some of the poops here. That again looks pretty whole. Let's pull out that bit with wee on it. I am very much leaving these stashes intact for little Sylvie. I'm just taking out any dirty bits of bedding, any poos. I'll have those bits out of there. So I can see there's a couple of poos in here, but I think it's the wee that bothers her most. So I'm gonna try and leave this undisturbed. These 2 bits, because if she's hoarding, I want her to feel like she can do that and it's not going to get taken away. And because these bits of bedding will still smell like her. I mean, all of it will do anyway, because the the deeper bedding isn't getting changed at the moment because she's only sleeping here and in here. So the rest of, and she's not burrowing, so the rest of the bedding is pretty much staying intact. I'm going to let you in on the secret to how I prep a multi-chamber. If you've got a hamster, anything like Sylvie or Flamey, when you filled in a hide, they'll go in and kick all the fluff out, like you've almost like you've put too much fluff in and you've done it wrong. And I've kind of figured out a way to stop that sort of over time. So what I do, and it's pretty simple, what I do is when I start, I fill each chamber and compress the bedding down so that there's a level surface across all of the chambers. Then where there are stashes, I cover those very lightly because the hamster tends to cover them themselves. So if you cover them very lightly, then they can still find them and they don't feel like their space has been disturbed too much. So we're just going to add a tiny bit of cover and actually not tamp it down too much, just enough to very lightly cover it. And then what they tend to like is to be able to kind of like dig under the bedding to sleep. But obviously you want a nice stable surface for them to be able to walk through the chambers quite happily. So the way that I found to do this is to pile bedding up in corners where that isn't going to interfere with the door, so that they have loose bedding that they don't need to kick up, and they can just then decide how much or little bedding they want. So as an example, I've got a handful of bedding here, and in this chamber there's no door here, so I'm just going to pop some in the corner like this. And maybe a little more. I try not to overdo it. Too much. And then I do that in every chamber where there's like, you know, it's where it's not going to interfere with a door. And you'll notice from the start of this video when I took the top off that a lot of this fluff had been redistributed by Sylvie. So she'll have taken these little piles of fluff and put them where she wants to. I try not to overload the ones with the food stashes in too much, or the entrance, because there's no point with the entrance because she's not really going to sleep there. But I do tend to just put in a little loose bedding, but not much, just in the stashed areas. Just so the same principle applies. It's there if they want it, but they don't need to. But I try not to cover up the stash if I can help it. And so now there's enough room for them to traverse through the chambers without having to fight all the bedding, which is why they tend to kick it out. So there's enough room for her to get in and get where she needs to go. But if she decides to sleep or pee in any of these chambers, she's got all this loose stuff that she can kick out. And she can have as much or as little of it out of these corners as she wants. But she's also got a solid foundation underneath that allows for easier travel in between the chambers. And that's Sylvie's multi-chamber cleaned out. I just noticed this lump here, so I'm just gonna... So we can now put the lid back on and leave her in peace to sleep in her pirate ship.